Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to please be upstanding, pray silence for the worshipful Mayor for the Borough of Wigan, Councillor Ron Conway. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Please sit down. Please remain standing while I chaplain Brother Kevin Fong to say a few words before we start the meeting. I was getting a bit worried then, Rob. I was getting worried. Good evening, everyone. It's always lovely to see you. For those of you like myself with Welsh connections, a very happy St David's Day. I see quite a few daffodils around. For years I've always admired our Muslim brethren for the way particularly the young people take on board fasting very seriously from dawn to dusk for the month of Ramadan, particularly when it's hot weather and Ramadan is in the summer, when it must be a very long day to wait for food or drink. Now, for fellow Christians, today we've begun on St David's Day, Ash Wednesday, and many of us will take on board fasting and all sorts of things to mark the 40 days in preparation for Easter. But sometimes that's seen by people as being a very self-centred sort of approach to life, and really, if you understand it correctly, it couldn't be further from the reality of it. Anything that people of religion or faith should do should be always to embrace others, particularly those in need and less fortunate than ourselves. So a short prayer before your meeting this evening. Lord Jesus, as Lent begins, we ask for the power of your Spirit that we may become more thoughtful towards others, more honest with ourselves, and more faithful to you. Help us to walk in your presence by the side of those in need and grow as the people you want us to be. Amen. God bless you all and have a good meeting. And let's start, please. The rules of conduct of the meeting have been circulated in advance of the meeting. Copies were received. 1. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. This evening we have apologies from Councillor Barber, Councillor Jeanette Prescott, Councillor Paul Prescott, Councillor Rampling and Councillor Talbot. Are there any further apologies for this evening's meeting? Councillor John Bennett, Councillor Stephen Jones. Any further apologies? Thank you.
2. Minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of January 2017. I will move the acceptance of these as a correct record.
I second, Mr. Mayor.
Can I put the minutes to the vote? All in favour? Thank you. Mayor's announcements. The death of Honorary Alderman Alf Robinson. It is with deep regret that I have to refer to the death of Honorary Alderman Alf Robinson, who passed away on Saturday, 14th of January. His funeral took place on the 26th of January at St Peter's Church in Hindley and was followed by committal from crematorium. Alf was a member of the former Hindley Urban District Council and was first elected to Wigan Metropolitan Borough Council in 1974, representing the Hindley Ward. During his time on council, he served on many committees. He was also school governor at St Peter's Church of England Primary School in Hindley, and represented the council on a number of outside bodies. Alf gave valuable service to the council and to the community at large.
and was recognised for this by being made an honorary Alderman 2008. Our thoughts go out to Al's family for their sad loss. I invite members to pay tribute to Al. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I think those that went to Al's funeral were impressed. Obviously, we knew Al as a board, as a colleague in the council and the work he did here, but I think to see the whole man there portrayed at the funeral, and particularly his wartime experience, which was quite fascinating, that he trained to be a gunner in the RAF, finished his training, and the day he finished his training, there was the day that the war finished. So he never got to be a gunner. But, I mean, it's typical of Al. He then went on, he volunteered to be a bomb disposal officer, and worked in Palestine. In fact, as my father-in-law did as well, worked in Palestine on bomb disposal at a time, of course, when there was terrorism in Palestine. And it was said on one occasion, Alf refused to move a vehicle which had bombed, an exploded bomb had been placed, because he said it wasn't safe. Well, that's typical of Alf. He was someone who went through things very thoroughly. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. So the officer got very annoyed with him, and he ordered some other soldiers to take the lorry away. And the lorry blew up, and tragedy killed that soldier. And so I think, you know, and then Alf went into a number of different activities, and eventually ended up at the electricity board. And as you say, Mr. Mayor, he was elected first to Hindley Council, and then on to Wigan. A slight correction of what I made, Mr. Mayor, with the information you were provided. He was elected in 1973. That's when the elections were held, although the council started in 74, the elections were held in 1973. I mean, all the wards in those days were numbered rather than named. And he was Ward 19 that Alf was elected to serve on, which was Hindley, as you were, north and central. There was another ward which was Hindley South, and I think Councillor Murphy actually ended up representing that ward too. Along with Alf from Ward 19, we had a classic character called Charlie Priestley, and Tom Ishwood. Tom was the first chairman of finance. Tom was the first chairman of finance on Wigan Council. A job he did really well, and Tom is still alive, but not very well. Alf, as you said, had a number of jobs, but the one I was really most sympathetic to Alf about is we made him vice chair of the Recreation and Media Committee. Now, it's nothing to do with Alf's competence. Alf was a steady, straightforward, real gentleman. They're open by the book. Imagine being trained in the electricity board, it was all there. Unfortunately for Alf, his chairman was the legendary Wilf Roden. Although Wilf was responsible for libraries, he didn't do anything by the book. And he ran things in a slightly cavalier way. Poor Al Dundy lost all his hair by having to support Wilf in those days. But he would come to me on occasion and express his exasperation to come to it. But he did a lot of good work for not just for us here in the council, but clearly his community in Hindley. And I think it was very apparent how much they valued the work he'd done in St Peter's School, and that was really important, I think, for them and so on. So, like you, Mr. Mayor, to echo the condolences to his family, who was at the funeral and supported. Towards the end of his life, after he lost his wife, Alf got quite a reputation as a dancer in there. He went to all of the tea dances and so on. Although right at the end of his life, he was, as the family said, at the funeral, suffering from dementia, so really wasn't exactly himself at the end, but you know, he was loved and cared for. and we appreciate what he's done for us as a council and for this borough.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not often I go to the chairman and speak about past colleagues, so I must be finally getting a bit old now as this is happening. I think something we can all probably agree in this chairman is when you become a councillor, it's a very daunting place. You walk through the doors and nobody can prepare you for what you're going to face, whether it was in committees or outside. And two people approached me when I got elected and walked through those doors. One was Alf and the other was Stan Simmons. And anybody who knows the two guys, they were like, and when I went home and explained to my wife who were, I said, they were like two granddads in a way, it was like helping you. And Alf was kind of quiet and spoken, but explained to you, this is what happens, and don't take him on, and don't do it. And Stan never shut up really for him, so you couldn't really get a word in there. And if I could probably explain to people who didn't know, it was a bit like them two guys on the Muppet Show, Startler and Waldorf, I think they were called, and they were writing. But you talk about Alf and what a genuinely nice guy. I know we always speak about people, but he genuinely was. I never heard him say a bad word about anybody or anything that was going on. And I think the leader just spoke about his final days, he suffered with dementia, but his wife suffered with dementia, really bad, and Alf struggled with that as well as being a councillor, but never complaining when I was with him. And myself and Deputy Leader met him once with his wife, and she was kind of in a bad way, but he got on with it, as we all do. I think one of Alf's other passions is, and probably smelling at the moment, is Wigan Athletic. Alf was a lifelong Wigan Athletic supporter, would talk every game. I'm not saying he knew as much as the deputy leader, but he was down it there. And he was really passionate, so at the moment he'd probably be a bit upset at where things are going. And the leader touched on all them past occupations that Alf had. I didn't know he'd done all that because Alf was one of them people who would speak about that. But what a genuinely nice guy. He actually made this chamber a nice place. The longest standing lot of people around at that time, so he will be sadly missed. And as the leader said, he did struggle at the end, so it was probably a blessing in the end for his family. But he will be missed, and he was a great guy in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Chris. Councillor Winston, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the Conservative Group, we'd obviously like to extend our condolences to Alf Stanley. I obviously had the honour of serving on the council with Alfie when I got elected in 2000. And I think the leader and Councillor Reid have already mentioned, you know, gentleman, and that is the first word that came into my mind when I first met Alf. And he was always properly dressed, immaculately dressed. He always conducted himself in a way that was absolutely beyond question. And it was interesting when we had the All-Out elections in 2004, when the Labour members were dropping like mannequins on that night at the DW Stadium, the two councillors that in the Green were re-elected were Alf and Stan, and I think that just says something about how much they were regarded within their local communities. And to retain those seats at that particular time was testament, I believe, to those two characters. So it's, I often feel that this council would be a better place and we'd have a better world with a lot more promises. So on behalf of the Conservative Group, we extend our sympathies and our thoughts because of his family.
Thank you, Councillor Winston.
Thank you, Mark. I must have been the most important thing else life in his last 6 years. I took him to hospital for appointments. Every appointment he needed, I watched him in pain. The things what happened to him. Maybe that's because of his early career. But he was disappointed that he wasn't being visited by the Labour Group. Told me that on other occasions. He did everything he ever was asked of him. He was even doing surgeries right up to a couple of weeks before his stroke. He used to go into the church at St. Peter's, have our dinner, and the guy, he knew everybody. It was very shocking to hear him judge his Alzheimer's because he never come across as having Alzheimer's with us. And all his friends in the church in Market Street and appointments, he never forgot anything. So I was very shocked at that. So like I said, I'm very shocked at that. He was my friend. We had He was Labour, I was Independent. He told me once, more than once, that I was the best council he'd ever seen, and only had one vote. I was in the Labour Council. I will miss this man, because I was with him all the time. And it's a shame that you didn't treat him as a friend when he retired. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor. At this point, may I ask you to stand for a moment as a mark of respect for all real Alvin. Congratulate the college on this award. Next, the Meuse Ball. Can I remind you that the Meuse Ball will be taking place this year on the 25th of March 2017 at Aspel Village on the Green. Tickets are priced at £40 for meaningful entertainment. We only have about 40 tickets left, so please let me know if you would like to attend. This promises to be an excellent evening, with the proceeds going to Wigan and Lee Hospice, which is my charity for the year. It's a great pleasure that I want to announce the next one. It's the World Club Challenge Trophy. It's with great pleasure that I can report that on Sunday the 19th of February, Wigan Warriors Rugby League Football Club became World Club Champions by beating Australian Rugby League team Grenoble Sharks 22-6. Wigan lifted the World Club Challenge Trophy for a record-breaking 4 times. This was the first time Wigan had lifted the trophy for 23 years, with the last win being against Brisbane in 1984. Nearly telling me Asian, because I was there with the big band at that momentous one in 87. So I think it just shows that this borough, with its 14 people, it does punch above its weight. Okay. Declaration of interest. In accordance with guidance issued by the DCLG in September 2013, members who are council taxpayers, own properties, and are tenants in the borough do not need to declare DPI for the settings of council tax, since these do not materially affect their interest in the land. Members should note that the personal interest was following: school governors, Wigan and Lee Housing Board, Inspiring Healthy Lifestyles Board members, members of Transport for Greater Manchester, members of Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Authority, Parish Councils if any, and Lee Sports Village. Members are asked to consider the DPIs for the purpose of this meeting, and any other personal prejudicial interest you will have to leave the room at the relevant part of the meeting. At this point, I'm going to declare an interest in funeral business. Are there any further declarations? Actually,
Personal non-prejudicial couple of bits to the primary and also the director of police force.
thank you. So, Chris Reed, I think you got to it.
Anything related to TFGM because manual personal prejudice.
I'm a school governor, St Peter's and Sacred Heart.
John Harding.
School governor and secretary.
John Harding.
Yeah, personal non-prejudicial item 6A. Member of the board of Wigan and Leigh.
Edward Hunter. Steve Norman.
Governor of St Andrews Series School, Governor of RKL and Director of Trustee of Inspiring Scouts.
Karen Aldred. Kevin Anderson.
Christchurch Primary School in Pennington, and also Pennington School member.
Stuart Keane.
School Governor at Colburn High School and Workplace Transport for Greater Manchester.
I'm going down the list here, so it's Jennifer Bullen next.
Governor at Oldfield and Langage Schools.
Thank you. John O'Brien.
Very much as the far authority.
Thank you. Lawrence Hunt.
Personal non-prejudicial Wigan and Leigh Home board member.
Thank you. Myra Whiteside.
Governor of Worsley High and Newton West Park.
Thank you. Yvonne Clee.
Governor of All Saints Primary School and Primary School.
Thank you. Joanne Platt.
Governor at Holy Family School, Primary School in Boothstown.
Christine Roberts.
Governor at St John's, Mosley Common.
Thank you. Barry Taylor.
Governor of Girton Hall School, Tilbury.
Thank you. Terry Halliwell. Was that deliberate mistake?
It was. Personal non-prejudicial, just in case in respect of tenancy of William Lee Holmes, and personal non-prejudicial Greater Manchester Pension Court.
Thank you. Joanne Marshall.
School Governor Garrett Hall Primary School, Tulsley.
Thank you. Mark Aldred.
Member of the Transport for Greater Manchester Authority.
Thank you. Keir Skate.
A personal non-prejudicial, the Director of Citizen Vice Services Borough.
Thank you. 5.
Sorry, I think there's one or two of us who are expecting that.
What's it showing up on here? Pat Draper.
Tenant of Wigan and Holmes, and Oliver said I'm also.
Thank you. Paul Collins.
Personal non-prejudicial board member for Wigan and Leigh Holmes.
Before I move on, is there any more? Councillor Walker.
Director of Wigan and Leigh Home, personal non-prejudicial. I don't think it's prejudicial anyway. No.
Yes, that is.
And like your letter of the agenda.
Right.
Director of Wigan and Leigh Citizen Advice Bureau.
Thank you. Anyone else anywhere? No? Thank you. We'll move on. Appointment to Wayside Bodies. Council requested to agree the appointment of Councillor Walker as the Council's shareholder representative on the YPO Holding Company and as the Council's voting representative on the YPO Joint Committee. Is this moved?
It's moved, Mr. Mayor. Back to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is this agreed? Can we have a show of hands with it, please? Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you. Policy and budget framework. The Council to deal with the future and revenue and capital budget framework. Members are asked to note that at this budget report, we are required by regulations to have a name vote on any motion. The Council is requested to consider the recommendations as set out at page 16 of the agenda. The report was considered by Cabinet at its meeting held on the 16th of February 2017. The views of scrutiny were also taken on board at a later meeting of the Cabinet that day. I now invite the leader to present the budget and move on the recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I commence that, can I just, although we changed standing orders about presentation, I think we need to declare that the second of the motion and the leader of the opposition in response can have 10 minutes and everyone else has 5 minutes to speak in this debate. Okay, lovely clerk, we start because we've got a Northern Parliament, Mr. Mayor, taking this license. Thanks very much. So what I want to do today is to explain the budget in its context, to stress the values that we put into developing the budget, to show you what the plan is overall, what progress we've been making towards the plan, and a little more of the detail of the budget towards the end. I will involve almost all of my comments in this first presentation. I'm excluding Councillor Halliwell because he's got the chance, seconds the motion to say what he wants. So I think most of this one, Mr. Mayor, you're familiar with. As a council, we began in 2010 with a huge hit on our budget then. It's continued. So by 2020, we'll have lost £158 million of government grant over that period of time. So by the time we come to 2020, we'll have not a single penny left of grant coming from the government to support what goes on within council directly. So we're reliant entirely on council tax and business rates, and we estimate that probably each year there's an additional pressure of about £6 million because of inflation. Inflation looks as though it's going to go up, so this could rise as well. And we've also got to cope with the fact that we're all getting older. It's good news for us in one sense, but it means that people with complex needs do put more pressure on our services. Children's problems are increasing, so we have to cope with that as well. Just a simple graph to show where we were in terms of budget support. And then there's the graph over time. You can see where we started in 2010 and how much we've taken off the budget. We've reached the 150 million point at the moment, and we've got to go still further to get to that 158 in 3 years' time. So we haven't finished what we have to do. So what are we trying to do with our budget? Well, we can't do everything, but we want to try and protect the people of this borough from the worst impact of the cuts. We don't think it's great to be cutting services and saying it's all the Tory government's fault. That doesn't help people in Wigan. We try and keep those services we can, and libraries and so on. But we also want to protect them from increases in council tax because people are suffering in a financial sense, so we don't think we should lower council tax on there. We started new conversations with our residents about how we overcome some of the problems, and I think we've had a really positive thing about this. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. We've got the SIF fund, which Councillor Reedy will be talking about later. We want to provide good value services, good quality services as we can within the money available. So we have a plan, and the plan is expressed in this document, the deal for the future. We still know we've changed a lot from 2010, but we need more change, more transformation in the way we deliver services. We need to grow the borough, and at this point, if I might invite the deputies to comment on that, because of his role.
Thank you, Rita. The leader touched on very clearly the need for the borough to self-finance itself as we head towards 2020. And I always proud of the fact that this council's commitment to growth and growth to industry to help to retain jobs, attract jobs, and I think we've done well to know. And I think at the last one council meeting I explained about a new company expansion within the borough, one of the biggest business expansions in terms of building the boroughs at the scene. The continued job growth that we've seen with the likes of Poundland, with the likes of NicePack, M6 Epic, which is another one on board now. So I think it's important that we still maintain, and I've always felt we've had the support of the group and the support of the council in general in terms of what we want to do for business. I've been fortunate today, along with the leader and the chief exec, to sit round the table with the people from HS2. So David Higgins hosted a meeting in Wigan today where he invited council leaders from all across the North West and the Midlands and businesses across that conurbation as well. And that commitment to HS2 is something we really should get behind, because the opportunities that HS2 will bring, not just to the north, but to Wigan, is something that we should grasp with both hands. When you start talking 25,000 jobs for the construction of HS2, when you think about there being 2,000 apprentices probably created in doing that, and in the wider range of the economy nationally, but more so the effect it will have on the north, you could be looking at 100,000 additional jobs. So I think we've got to show that commitment to grow, particularly here in Wigan. And I'm proud of the fact when I go around to meet businesses in Wigan, they're always pleased about the support they've received from this authority. Whether it's through the economic team or whether it's through the planning team, we've certainly gone out of our way to make business feel welcome and to make sure that businesses grow. I got invited only this week to an event on the 8th of March, which is being run by Insider Media, which is a big organisation in the business media world in terms of what it presents and how it promotes business. And it's holding a meeting here in Wigan on the 8th of March, where over 200 delegates have been invited from businesses all across the north. 200 delegates who are interested in supporting and creating employment opportunities in this borough. And I think that's a proud fact that we all should be proud of, because I think every single person in this room wants to support businesses in this borough and wants to promote that. And on the back of that, I think back to about 2009, 2010, when this authority took a very bold step. We knew what was coming our way in terms of the cuts that we'd have to face. But we took that bold step to create apprenticeships. Not everybody thought it was a good idea. Some people actually voted against the budget, which included. But the fact of the matter, it was. And I'm proud of the fact that this authority now, currently, has 294 apprentices. Some of those are apprentices and some of those are current employees who seek career changes through the apprentice process. We recently ran at Christmas an apprentice is not just for Christmas, it's for life. Because we do know that once a person's had their apprenticeship training, it just doesn't open the immediate opportunity of what they're learning. It opens a wider work experience which will help them through the rest of their working lives.
and 27 local companies took an apprentice on in December because of the input of this council and what we persuaded people to do. And I think it's more and more important that we promote this town, sell this town, and exploit what we can in terms of getting businesses in to create employment opportunities for our people. Let's not forget that all these young people that we turn out in our educational establishments, which are excellent, need job opportunities. And we need to make sure that we create those job opportunities, create the opportunities for life in terms of what they can bring back to us as a community. So please, tonight in the budget, that particular part of our commitment to 100% commitment for business growth in this town, make it a reality, let's keep it a reality, and please support the budget tonight, in particular on items such as that.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, before we continue, I should declare a non-prejudicial interest in all matters relating to education.
Can I thank the Deputy for his input on this hard work he puts in to get this a growing town. We just need to add on that we want to form new relationships with our residents, and again we'll come back to that in a moment, and protect and maintain the services that we need for the future. To look at check what progress we've done, this slide, you'll remember, Mr. Mayor, the thing we had in January to celebrate the fact that this council has won 15 different external awards in a range of different activities across the council. So we're not only providing good quality services being recognised nationally as well. We had a recent budget consultation. What people told us about that is, again, more people speaking positively about the council. 72% satisfied with where they live. 65% satisfied with the way council runs things. No, 61% think we keep them informed, and particularly there was a great encouragement for things we do in the deal and showing that we want to encourage people to invest. It's a 92% improvement rate. So we come on to the budget in terms of what we are proposing. And the first one is that commitment to keep council tax low. So we've continued to look for ways to delivering those services in the most cost-effective way. But of course, what we do as a council has been affected by national government policy. In a panic, as they don't really know what to do with the social care, the government said we could increase the precept, increase the amount of money we raise from council tax to pay for social care from 2%, which they put in the budget last year, to 3%. Just remind you what we said about that. It is unfair in the sense that, first of all, it places the burden on those least able to afford it in the community. But it also puts it on places least able to afford it. So in the leafy suburbs around London and Richmond and so on, they can raise far more money than the 3% increase in their council tax than we do. So it is actually not the best way to do it. But having put that on one side, we haven't put in any figure in the budget for the cost of Wigan services other than that 3%. So we're going to put the council tax by an average of just 55p a week. It is the lowest increase in Greater Manchester. All of the other authorities have gone for the maximum permitted increase in council tax, which was 5% or just up to 5%, so coming at 4.999 or whatever to get that. So we are the lowest increase. We're not the lowest level of council tax, we're now the second lowest. And the trajectory is, if we continue to do that, because we've seen the plans as in other authorities, then we will soon be the lowest. Okay. One of the other things we consulted about was the black bin collection, and obviously people were responding they didn't want they didn't want to reduce the size of the bin. They didn't want us to have an increase in fly tipping. and so they wanted to protect larger families. So I'll ask Councillor Anderson if you'll comment on that.
Thank you, Leader. The movement to free weekly back bin collections later this year should save the council nearly £2 million per year and help increase our recycling rates. This is not a change that we would have wished to initiate if it wasn't for the savage cuts being imposed on this council by this Tory government. We are, though, the last council in Greater Manchester to ever move to a free weekly black bin collection or swing bin option. Unfortunately, in a position to learn from the experience of other councils. I'd also like to thank those residents and members who contributed to the recent budget consultation exercise. In response to the consultation, we developed a communication and education plan to prepare for the changes to bin collections. As part of the members' task and finish group, we are currently evaluating how we can improve recycling rates amongst residents, which includes potential to offer incentives. We are also in the process of seeking additional funding to help support recycling in the community, such as, for example, through the Dealing with Communities Investment and REP. As part of the consultation, we recognise that households with several young children or with members who have certain medical conditions may produce a larger quantity of waste and may therefore struggle with the size of their current black bin. They will therefore be able to have their individual needs assessed, and if necessary, additional capacity will be provided. Evidence of other councils that have implemented free weekly black bin collection indicates that they have not experienced any significant increase in fly tipping. Fly tipping is an offence, and we prosecute and fine people who do it. We recognise, however, that fly tipping can be an issue in some areas of the borough, and additional resources will be going into combating fly tipping and contamination. These include the establishment of a temporary Blitzit rapid response team, the recruitment of additional enforcement officers, and deployment of covert surveillance cameras, and the temporary suspension of our misbin policy. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all the staff who work within environmental services for their hard work during the last year. The past year was really successful in securing regional and national recognition for services such as the highways function, bereavement services, street lighting and winter services. Green Spaces and Friends Groups helped to retain green flag status at 4 of the borough's parks, and the council and community groups continue to work well together to making Blue a great success. In last year's budget, Direct achieved savings of £1.65 million. This year's budget includes a further savings of £3.81 million, which is nearly a quarter of the required corporate savings across the council. The challenges we face have never been more difficult, but by working together with our communities, I'm confident we can continue to deliver on our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Just to remind members that, first of all, the increase in the bin collection is entirely going to reduce the amount of council tax that people pay. The savings that we've done there will transfer. So that is the major reason for that. There's also an additional reason in terms of the need to recycle more. If we don't recycle more, then we're likely, not just us but all authorities, are likely to face increased landfill charge, which will be an additional amount of money, which seems to be absolute waste of our precious resources that we pay for that. So hopefully this will improve recycling too. Moving on then, just to say, we obviously want to give kids the best chance they have in this borough. I'll ask Councillor Platt to explain this.
Thank you, Leader. Mr. Mayor, our key priority is to provide the best starting line for our children, responding effectively when children and young people need help and protection, and enabling our young people to take advantage of the opportunities of economic growth locally and in Greater Manchester. Through the deal, our focus is on building resilience in our young people and families, focusing on community-based prevention, with a particular focus on pre-birth to 2 years, improving school readiness and reducing demand on more expensive and specialist services. Our approach will ensure that we remain able to respond robustly and effectively to keep children safe and protected when they need our help and protection whilst dealing with the continued reduction in public service spending that we are having to manage. Our focus in the budget is therefore continued investment in place-based prevention services, further integration with our partners, such as health and schools, which will further deliver our promises in the deal and implement earlier action that will reduce the cost of further more expensive interventions later on. I'm proud to say that this council is at the forefront of innovation, with Children's Services leading the way by our asset-based approach to combat significant complex issues, in particular our CSE and mental health innovation pilots, which will enable us to reduce costs on external and expensive out-of-borough placements, reduce the use of specialist residential services, and increase the availability of local foster care. We will continue to focus on the importance of permanence for children, building on the significant improvements in recent years in our adoption services. We again outperform nationally our other authorities, and our adoption is the best in the region and second best nationally, I meant to say. So our development of the Regional Adoption Agency will build on that strong level of performance. The budget proposals for Children's Services remains progressive and in line with our commitments and principles for the deal. Despite the continuing very difficult financial position due to the national settlement at a time of increasing demands on our services, I am confident that we can achieve these plans, not least because of the ongoing support of our local school system that we have placed within the heart of our plans. It is worth reminding Council that this is despite the government's intentions through the proposed national funding formula to take up to £4.1 million per year from the budgets of our schools within the borough. The Wigan Schools Forum, a group comprising representatives of all schools and other educational settings in the borough, have agreed that this was of such importance that all schools are to be asked to forward letters to parents explaining the impact of these changes. And as portfolio holder for children, young people and obviously education, that is something I do support the Schools Forum in doing. So whilst the government are intent on decimating our local school system, we are working to bring more integrated support to our schools to support children, young people and their families. This will continue to be at the heart of our approach and will commit to continue to support schools and education in the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark, for that input. And now we move on to the way we want to protect the vulnerable and elderly. I'll ask Councillor Cummins to explain that for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most people who read the national press will see quotes about social care being in crisis. The chair of the LGA Community Wellbeing Board says social care is in crisis. Who is she? She's Councillor Izzy Seacon, Conservative Leader of Warwickshire County Council. The chair of the LGA himself acknowledges that social care is in crisis. And who is he? Lord Porter, Conservative Councillor. And I think one leafy suburb was proposing a 15% council tax rise until they got the bung from the government in order not to do it. So they got some kind of sweetheart deal that's not available to the likes of us. And the leader indicated that Wigan was one of the third hardest hit council in the country. And our budget will have reduced by 42% by 2020. The Director of Adult Social Care in Liverpool is resigning his post because he no longer feels that it's a job he went into to cut services. And around the country, as you see that, in many authorities recognise that what we've done in this council is address early prevention and early intervention. We've transformed the way we provide social care. So social care in this borough is not in crisis because of the actions we took early days, right at the beginning of the austerity programme. And that was about transforming the way we work. It was about having a different conversation with people. When you have less money, you can employ less people. You have less resources. But actually, there's 320,000 people within this borough who are a resource and who are assets. So having a different conversation with people, building on assets of individuals and their communities and connecting them to those. And this last week or so, there's been the launch of the community book, which is going to be a developing thing for people to be able to access online and connect with what's happening in their communities. We've actually managed to change this. We've actually managed a £25 million, with a £25 million reduction in the amount we have for adult social care. But in addition to that, over the last few years, we've coped with what should have been about £13 million of additional demand because of the ageing population. So if you like, in this borough, we've had a hit of nearly £40 million on adult social care. So why are we not at the crisis level that many authorities are? It's because of what this Labour group did and what this council did, or from 2010 onwards up to now. Because it's not only connecting people with communities, social isolation and loneliness has the same physical effect as smoking 15 cigarettes a day on your health. It's clearly indicated in Marmot, Michael Marmot in his report in 2010 clearly indicated what the wider determinants of health are. Those are the things that we're addressing, the wider determinants of health, connecting people with communities. And so, what have we managed to achieve? Well, actually, having taken that hit, that level of reduction in service, we're in the top quartile of all authorities for resident satisfaction with adult social care. Unlike Liverpool, where the director's resigning because he doesn't want to do those jobs, our staff have a high level of morale. When we went into the survey about the best companies, adult social care had the highest recognition of services. We're moving to develop housing with extra care and supported housing to enable people to live more independent lives. And a lot of people oppose the closure of the Pines in this council chamber, and the Labour group supported it. And those people who moved out to the Pines and now live in supported housing have actually blossomed and thrived as a result of increasing independence and choice and control over their lives. So we've done a lot. And we've still more to do with the development of an integrated care organisation across the boroughs. The Healthier Wigan Partnership, which we're in the process of doing, is about investing in adult services, investing in health across the board to actually improve services and meet the budget reductions that we have to meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cummins. Many authorities surrounding us have had to take some really tough decisions over the last couple of years. One of the casualties has often been school crossing patrols or library services which have been reduced. I have to tell you, obviously, you're the inspectors, we examined this for Wigan Council, how much we could say, what would the implication be, and I think we felt both of those services were too important to change in that radical way. Certainly school crossing patrols, again, people think it's a really valuable service, and so do we, so we're maintaining that as we can, and we're having a library review, which, despite what one of our MPs says, is keeping libraries open. Running in slightly different ways, but they're keeping libraries open, really important thing to do. We always want to support families and veterans, and I'll ask Councillor Boland if she'll comment on this, please.
Thank you, Leader. Mr. Mayor, in Wigan, we believe that we can be compassionate. And to this end, in this proposed budget, we've removed council charges for burials and cremations of children and young people from 0 to 17 years of age. It was felt that the death of a child is such an enormous tragedy affecting parents, family members and often the whole community, that to ask for payment for these charges was just too great a burden to place on residents who are in deep shock and grief. Second, Mr Mayor, if I may talk about support for veterans. And I'm pleased to report that the promised Veterans Hub is making good progress towards fruition. And members may well have seen the recent press reports on this. The plan is for a flexible use of the current Market Hall space, and this will provide enhanced market trade and business opportunities when the stalls are put together at one end of the Market Hall, so they look more like a compact shopping area. And I'm sure it's going to give the market a new lease of life. While at the other end of the Market Hall, there will be the Veterans Hub. And this will be created in the other space. And the various armed forces will be present, and they will provide a comprehensive range of support, such as education, employment, housing and medical support for veterans. And this space will also provide a social hub, which will be open to everyone, but will be as well to include veterans and their families. And the veterans that we're talking about, of course, are the veterans from recent action and those from yesteryear. And I hope that you'll agree that both these proposed positive developments are ones for which this council can be proud. Thank you, Mr
Mayor. Okay, thank you, Councillor Gordon, for those comments. We're now moving on to a really important area of developments in the council. That's the deal we have with local communities. I'm delighted that we've got two representatives of those communities to explain how they feel they're getting benefit from SIF, and obviously we'll ask Councillor Reid to comment on this. So, first of all, Sam Ross.
I'm Sam. I might confuse a few people, as I do know a few faces around the room, and you probably do know me as Skills CIC, which is based in Hindley. It's a CIC that provides day service for adults with learning difficulties over the age of 18. But I'm actually not here as Skills CIC today. I'm here to talk about a community interest company which I set up last March 2016 called Crisp Community CIC. You'll probably remember it's Crisp Community CIC, but it does stand for Creating, Reaching, Inspiring Spaces and Places. Where did it all start? Obviously I've been in Hindley as Skills CIC for about 5 years now, and we've worked in partnership with all sorts of different community groups, for example Pine Studios, St John's Church, St Peter's Church, local judo clubs, and we sort of noticed that there was some fabulous things going on in Hindley, but there wasn't that main hub where everything came together. So then formed, underneath Crisp Communities came Chapter 1 Tea Rooms, and that was the start of our community hub. It is actually based in Hindley Library, so one of the main chunks of our vision is to keep our library open, and our volunteers and team will be trained in being able to keep the library open extended hours into the evenings, throughout the weekends. As an example, we in Hindley Library, in Crisp Communities Hub, we are linking with as many community groups for a while as we can. So we have, for example, the alcohol support group one evening. We have young carers coming in one evening, having a relaxation evening. We're heavily linking in with BU Plus to create an LGBT social evening. That's actually where I'm heading off to after this. So our real vision is to make it an inclusive space for people of all ages, all abilities to be able to come along to. Through the deal funding, we did get a small investment of £2,000 last year, which enabled us to put on different creative workshops. So things such as willow weaving, knit and natter. We went out into the community to actually find out what people wanted. It was very silly to just put on things that we thought were fun and enjoyable. We went out to find out what people in the Hindley community wanted. So we went into the local churches and the local community groups to put on what they need and want. So Crisp Communities isn't just about Hindley Library. Yes, of course, we want to bring that community building to life, and we want to work in partnership with the libraries and the council to extend the hours and to keep it going. But Crisp Communities is more about using other community spaces as well as our own. So, for example, St John's, which is a beautiful church at the top of Market Street, has a fantastic community space, fantastic place where we can be doing Tai Chi, Zumba, all the energetic things that actually we don't have space for in the library. So our idea is to work with all of these different groups in Hindley and to be able to support them and help them bring their community buildings to life and get more people through their doors as well. So the deal has done a great deal really for us because we wouldn't have been able to sort of grow. We've just been successful with the Big Idea funding, which we are just so excited about. We can really start to grow and make even more of a difference. We've started small and now gradually we can build up, and as cheesy as it sounds, genuinely we can make a difference to more and more people in the community. We've had a fantastic amount of support of our local councillors, some of which are in the room. We're trying to hold as many events to get the community involved. So, for example, we have a soft launch next Sunday, which links in with the Twinning Office and the Francophonie Week. So we're holding a big creative event with entertainment, crafts, lots of fun for all different people of all different ages. As an organisation and an individual, we're well aware that by 2020 the economic climate will be totally different than it is today. Both the council and ourselves as Crisp Communities are very committed in making sure that our project is sustainable after the 3 years. As part of our bid, we have got numerous apprenticeships on offer, and a lot of the work that we're going to be doing is working in partnership with all of the groups in Hindley. And not just Hindley. Hindley is very central to Wigan Anley, so we want our hub to be very wide so people can come and visit and make use of our community space. So to end on that, we're just really, really excited to be able to build on that vision that we've had for so many years and turn our ideas into reality.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Helen Stalker. I'm the director of the Turnpike. For those of you that don't know, the Turnpike is an arts venue that occupies the first floor of Upperley Library in the heart of the town centre. It's a very beautiful, believe me, 1971 Brutus building. I came to the Turnpike from the Whitworth Art Gallery in Manchester, where I was there for 10 years as curator of fine art, a delightful job, as you can imagine. And then before that I was at Tate Liverpool as exhibitions organiser. But when the opportunity came up to take over the Turnpike, I jumped at it because I am local, and I believe that Lee deserves the very best in art and culture. I believe it's a tool to inspire our next generation of young people, to give them a sense of entitlement to the very best that the world can offer in terms of art and culture and beyond, to raise their expectations to become politically and socially engaged. And I firmly believe that art and culture can help people find their place in the world. So what the Turnpike is going to become is this window into that fantastic world of art and culture. And it's going to level the playing field, essentially, for young people to engage with that. So we have fantastic plans. We've started with the Jerry Drawing Prize, which is a very prestigious exhibition which came up from London, and we're the only northern venue to host that this year. So that's been a real coup for Lee. But we'll kick off properly now thanks to the SIF funding that we've received with a prize-winning artist, Mark Leckie, who's going to come to Lee and work with our young people to develop a new project that will really establish a kind of benchmark in quality for what they deserve. I don't believe that art is just something nice to have in a town, although I do believe it is. We've already started a project working with, for example, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder who come and have targeted art therapy sessions with qualified therapists. We work with a group called Fallen Angels who are local residents in recovery from addiction, and they come and dance every week at the Turnpike, and now they're actually affiliated with the Royal Ballet, believe it or not. We are starting our young people's drama provision after school, and we're going to do that in partnership with an Olivier Award-winning playwright called Jim Cartwright, if any of you have ever seen The Rise and Fall of Little Voice. Jim's coming to Lee, and he's going to develop our next generation of thespians and scriptwriters. So I just wanted to, I'm not showing off, I am showing off. I just wanted to give you an idea of the quality that we expect and the quality that our young people should expect. In partnership with the council, we're also developing a cultural education strategy for our local schools with a reach across the whole borough. And what that's going to do is just alleviate the pressure that schools are feeling in terms of delivering arts and culture. As you know, it's been squeezed dramatically out of the curriculum, and teachers do not have the resources to demonstrate that in a really meaningful way. So we're going to work alongside with our schools. I'm working with the Arts Council. I'm a cultural education leadership partner, and I'm going to develop, in partnership with lots of other arts organisations, something that Wigan can really be proud of. So, I think I've run quite long enough, I don't know, but what I'm going to say is we are going to bring excellence to Wigan, we're going to bring excellence to Lee, but it's excellence with community at its core, at its heart. It's going to engage directly with our community. We're going to have a youth voice, we're going to have a community voice, we're going to listen, we're going to find out what people want, and we're going to really raise the aspirations of a new generation of confident, creative, inspired young people.
Thanks, Sam and Helen, for what you said. Helen, my daughter also thinks the Turnpike is a wonderful building, so I'm nice to it. I'd like now to bring in Chris Reedy, who's worked so hard on this area. Chris.
Thanks, Leader. Thank you, Mr. Mann. That's something to follow, that, isn't it? Two excellent speakers from two different spectrums of what we're looking at in this borough. Sam, I've done lots of work with Sam over the last month, probably years, seemed like a long time, a lot more than that. I know Mr. Moe, you've had many visits up to there. We can see the passion of what was on the England Chapter 1 of the team reviews. And actually the vision to deliver what they want to do over that period, and actually seeing the reality of what 2020 means to this council and what people have got to do about the sustainability issue of what you do. So I think that's great. Ellen, I couldn't probably repeat any of that or even go into detail of that, to be quite honest. I just think it brings just a different dimension to the borough. It's something with the calibre that you're bringing to them, and I think that's brilliant for Lee, it's brilliant for Wigan. I think it'll be superb. I think the vision that you've got, and actually work in schools and turning Turnpike, and when I've read something earlier about you about doing the theatre on the roof. I think there's what potential there is there, and that's really what sits about it, is the diversity of it. I just want to touch on something people always said to me, you go around visiting groups and what happens when combining groups. I went to Firclent a couple of months ago and had my dinner there. It's cheap as well, if you ever want to go there. It's got good food and cheap. And Shirley runs it, said, come and have a look at our warehouse and what we're doing there. So she took me into this warehouse, and you've never seen as much food and stuff what wouldn't go to waste. And I said, I've got this group in England who've got a tea room. I said, I'm sure you could link in with them. And she said, where are they? They're in England. And she said, we've got a difficulty in England. We deliver to the schools in England, but we've got a problem with the deliveries. We're really struggling. So I rang Sam up and I said, look, we've got somebody who could provide you with free food, but, there's always a but, want you to deliver to the schools. Sam said, that's great for us. Made that contact, and the amount of work that Sam's doing with Furtran is unbelievable. But being Wigan as Wigan, and people are not backward at coming forward as the saying goes, Shirley said to me, I've been on the phone to Sam, this is why I'm stood there, and she wants this. Can you pull your car up? Take the back seat down and fill it up with food and take it up to England. I thought, well, is this a cabinet member's role to be dealing with this food? But that just shows what Wigan's about and what we do. We did that, and we're actually working that together now. And it just shows that they didn't have that connection. Now they do. Sam's doing for them. They're offering to them. I think it's just superb the way that works. Mr. Mayor, can I thank my cabinet colleagues for the savings that they're delivering so I can spend more money in our communities. I think it's great that they're doing that. Because we have a joke in the cabinet office that I've got a drawer full of money and they've not got any, but that's not true. But it really does work that we're saving in other areas, we're still delivering that excellent service, but we'll be able to spend money in the community. I'm just going to touch on briefly and very briefly about housing, because I think we'll say this at a different round. That's naturally out of my other role, which is coming back in house. We're going to save in the first year probably £1 million, and you may say, why? How could you do that? And that's going to be a lot more collective work in there. But over the period, we'll probably save something like £5 million there through the housing budget. That's no detriment to anybody who's worked on the housing board or anything. We're working in a different way now. We've got to do it, and that's the way it is. So it's a big thanks to the people who's chaired the board, been board members, and done that over the years. Just turning back to SIF, this year has been probably our most popular year with SIF, and we had, I can't remember how many bids, but we had £12.5 million worth of bids sat on the table with a £2.5 million budget. So you can imagine the dilemma that we had trying to go through that. So the staff that work on SIF are absolutely excellent. I praise them all the time, and I don't praise them for a reason that I just want to do that. I think the reason is that they looked at those bids and collated some of those bids together, which saved us millions in areas, so we can still deliver all the touches. I think it's great that we do that, and some of the areas that we've provided with SIF is in the homeless sector with organisations in Leeds, the Brick in Wigan, because we know it needs addressing. It's a big issue because of the sanctions prompted by this government and all the people suffering. We know that's a big area for us, and we're actually supporting that. I've got to do a quick mention about the advocacy sessions that we've done all over the borough. We've done 19 sessions, took thousands of people, and that's what we've had complaints, we've had compliments. But one of the things that stuck in my mind all the time, and this one, well, a couple of people said to me, do you know what, Chris? You've been honest about it. We've sat there and said, these are dilemmas we face, this is what we're going to get to, but this is what we're trying to achieve. And I think people appreciate that in Wigan, that you can be honest with them and deliver that. I know my time's running, so I'm going to have to finish now. But I think, like I said, the staff that work on it is unbelievable. And I think just one final point, that because we're aiming towards 2020, we're actually going to employ a bid writer through the community partnership to help groups, when we can't fund them, to look at lottery funding and heritage funding and so on. So I think that's another move forward that we're actually taking a step forward. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor Reid, but you're talking a bit loud.
You're right.
What he was meant to say, the initiative that he did say, was partly because of the demand we've seen this year for bids in the community, that we have managed to find another £1 million from our savings to actually invest in SIF. I just want to remind members that this is not, we're not giving money away, we're investing money away because we have very clear evidence that the money we put in up front helps to deliver the kind of preventive work that Joe Platt and Keith Cunliffe talks about and produces savings back in the council. So there's quite a decent rate of return, so a lot more than we get in a bank. So I think it's a really good investment in our money. Moving on, we just wanted to add to the contributions of Sam and Helen with an individual story. It's very brief, I'm told.
I am Mildred Yarwood, and I'm 78 years of age. When my husband died, I just didn't know what to do with myself. You notice it more when you're living on your own because you've not got that partner there. And I see someone at Wigan and I think, oh, wait till I get home and tell my husband who I've seen, he'll never believe me. And then all of a sudden, it clicks, he's not there anymore. Loneliness can strike at any point in someone's life. It's what you do about it that matters. And they were so wonderful at the library, and they make everyone feel at home, and you're guaranteed to have a laugh. They taught me to find the family tree, and this is it where I found some of the relatives that I hadn't seen for 47 years, and I met up with them at Wigan, and we've never looked back since. The staff alone, they have given me the confidence which I had lost, and I am grateful to everyone. Thank you, Mildred.
But as Mr Mayor, a different kind of conversation that we're having with the population and the road results that come. I don't really intend to spend any time really on this slide. I added it to the pack because I thought members may be interested in the detail of the budget. So when you get sent a copy of this, you've got that information to hand. So it just puts in figures what we've been saying verbally. So move on to the final slide. Relieved to know. So we've got a low council tax increase, which is maintaining our main services. We're encouraging even more community engagement. We've announced a number of new initiatives. So I think, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the budget recommendations, and in doing so, I want to thank Paul McKellar, Tony Clark, and the staff for the work that they do, not just in helping to prepare the budget, but also obviously over the 12 months in monitoring the way that we're spending. As Councillor Cummins indicates, if imitation is the best form of flattery, then we're having lots of local councillors who come around to find out what's the big secret in Wigan that we're managing to keep things going. We're doing it because we take this really seriously. I'll move that budget, Mr. Mayor.
These recommendations seconded.
Second, Mr Mayor, and I'm reserving the right to speak to the end for the lead sums.
Thank you. Are there any members who wish to comment on the recommendations? Councillor Winston?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'm having trouble singing up those daffodils. It reminds me of when Dirty Game got shot. So Can I actually start off by saying I've actually enjoyed the budget great tonight because I had a bingo card and the leader's let me down. He's not ticked any of the things I've on my bingo card, like austerity and Tory savage cuts. Spencer Anderson obviously got me one number on my card. But I think it is important, and I think what we've heard tonight is the demonstration of what Wigan as a local authority did in the early days, because you actually realise that things weren't going to carry on as they are. And what is interesting is that when we look at the resident survey as well, that despite not having that money in the service, the way that we do things is no different, and that actually the satisfaction with services is still pretty much high. And I think that just demonstrates that actually it's not sometimes spending money, it's actually how we do it. And the other thing that struck me was that this is the first time time that I've actually responded to the leader whilst we've had a Conservative administration, because the first year I was sat where the current mayor is. And, but previously, from 2000 up to 2010, the leader always came with big increases in council tax, as though there was a wash of money, and council tax kept increasing year after year after year. So I actually thoroughly welcome the budget tonight in the 0% increase. I'm pleased that the council haven't done what other authorities have done in Greater Manchester in taking it to the limit that they could do. Obviously, we acknowledge the issue with our social care. And I think it's fair to say that moving forward, we do need whole-scale reform of social care. And we do need to have this in a mature debate as well, because this issue isn't going away. It's going to be a growing problem across society. So, and I think that the devolution and the health portfolio that we're going to get when we get the elected mayor, hopefully it might be a Conservative from Trafford rather than someone from Leigh, but we'll wait and see what the electorate decide. But I think it gives us a great opportunity with devolution, again, actually to show and lead the way in terms of how this can actually be tackled. And it is going to be difficult in terms of bringing health together and local authorities together to have a whole-scale change. So I do acknowledge the pressures. It's good to see that the leader did update his slides from last year, and he's now got the May tax rather than the Osborne tax. However, the Chancellor has been slightly disappointed that it's not the Hammond tax, but never mind, he's probably a little less flamboyant than the previous Chancellor. Coming on to business growth, I've always been a big supporter of ensuring and encouraging companies, people to invest in this borough, and whatever measures this council bring forward to encourage that and to make sure that we're the number one on people's agendas when they're thinking about relocating or expanding, you will have my support and my group's support for that, because this is absolutely vital going forward. Given where we're going to be in 2020, we're not going to have the RSG anymore. The success of our business community is absolutely vital to our community. But not only about business rates, it's about creating jobs. Because what we don't want, we want good quality jobs that people don't have to travel out to the borough for. And if we can do that, actually, that is far more sustainable going forward than anything else. Looking at fees and charges, we wholeheartedly endorse and support the recommendations brought forward by Councillor Bullen on the proposals to abolish the burial and cremation fees. I think that is a very much welcome step, and you know, for those people in those circumstances will be welcome. And of course, the investments in the armed forces as well. It's good to see that we're actually investing in our armed forces. Those people who have stood by us and put their lives on the line, who now come back from service, it's important that we demonstrate and help them in the local community. So I'm good that that's happening in that part of Wigan as well. Hopefully that will provide that with some momentum. In terms of moving forward as well, I think the town centres as well will be vital as well in terms of regenerating our shopping centres. Obviously, we welcome the investment in Lynn, noted in the budget, but also we mustn't forget that we've got other town centres as well. And I was chatting to Kelbaskins today about the Ashton Town Centre plan as well, and we also need to make sure that we invest in all those town centres as well, because we are a borough of, in essence, nation shopkeepers, but in essence we are a borough of small towns, and it's vital that none of them sort of like feel left out. I also welcome the post-27 business revaluation as well, in terms of 3,810 properties are going to get 100% small business relief, 1,600 are going to pay the reduced multiplier. So in total, 5,803, or nearly 62% of businesses, benefit in some way from the small business rate relief as well. Obviously, we need to look at those companies that aren't going to be slightly worse off. But I think that is a welcome measure. So I'm sorry to disappoint the Labour group tonight. I'm not doing an overtly political speech. What we will obviously be doing is, as we go through the year, we'll be monitoring to make sure that you're delivering what you've pledged to do, and so I'm pleased to say that we can support your budget.
Thank you, Councillor Winston. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this year's budget. First of all, I'd like to say that I've read the council. I'm looking forward to the waiver and burial and cremation fees for children. I can't believe this has not been the case before now, but I'm more than happy to say that I agree that we will support this element of the budget. However, we cannot support some of the other elements. Firstly, it's the matter of the bad debts in housing. The figure is 2.6 million, and this figure is so large because the council agreed to the trial voucher for the universal credit. Whilst we know the government did introduce this, we also now know that the council had been on the trial authority, then the debt would not be as high as it is. We know the council spent money on outside solicitors' fees to go to get opposition councillors. And have we had any prosecutions? No. Personal vendettas needed cost the council taxpayers' money. Whilst I'm sure councils may have made points to councillors that joined that group, which is fine, but if the town needs to stop costing taxpayers' money. And for my part, working with my group members to stop this, I suggest he does the same. Secondly, the believing campaigns. Whilst I'm sure the intention of the council is a positive one, we need to stop wasting money on such campaigns. Now, Mayor, I shouldn't declare a personal interest in that because the group declared me and voted me as the leader, which I'm thankful for. But seriously, over £60,000 on this campaign does not provide any cost benefit to the taxpayers of the borough. The council says that it will keep the crossing patrols safe, yet school crossing patrols are still being taken away. That's something that possibly does need to be looked at. On the important point of recycling, we know that there is a benefit to Earth and Planet for recycling, but it has to be the cost effective of the borough, saving 4 million per year. But what we are not told is the cost to save 4 million. For example, is it a costing of 10 million, 6 million to save 4 million? Our recycling is not cost effective. And whilst I'm on recycling, the cost of the council food bags for the recycling is £70,000 per year. Those bags cost us £70,000 per year, but again, we're not told what the saving is on the food for the recycling. So as you can see, Mr. Mayor, these examples are just a few to demonstrate how we must do better for the people we are. Whilst we can support some elements, we cannot support the waste that we say.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I didn't receive the art back because I've not got it yet. I've got a document that thick, was very hard to read. Tonight, we've heard that by 2020, this council is going to lose 42% of its budget from a few years ago. 42% of £1 billion is £420 million. But yet, the leader only speaks of £156 million 2020. That's a bit confusing. I'd like to go to the 3-week bin cycle. Again, this is massive in the area. Everybody's complaining about it. You know, if this council would have gone a little bit further to stop this and left it on a 2-week cycle, all you needed to do was take £1.7 million, which is going to be saved, out of those savings. Because all you're going on an interest rate on 0.25%, a 0.25% on the £1.7 million, you're only losing £3,750. You're causing misery for the residents of Wigan. It's a disgrace. Then it's going to cost you £23,000 to put new leaflets out, explaining the new bins, the leaflet service. So why don't you just take the £1.7 1.7, lose the £3,750 and save yourself a lot of money, save yourself £23,000 and give them back the service. It's as simple as that. You know, we've got £63 million invested and we're getting nothing for our money. Surely the most important thing is the residents and the value to residents and the council tax to residents and give them a decent bin service instead of court. You know, we don't get involved in anything like this because we're not allowed. We should be getting involved. The fly tipping costs alone is going to cripple this council. The savings of £1.7 million, what you keep saying, how much are you going to lose on fly tipping? I get phone calls upon phone calls of fly tipping. And we went up to the tip. The information that we got was, we can't understand this council. When somebody fly tips, they bring it here. So, you mean, it's ludicrous. It's costing us money all the time. Well, it's just a little bit of common sense on the 3-week cycle. Anyway, that's all I need to say on that. I was looking through the document on page 129 of Wigan Agriculture Trust, the AO. They're spending £2,450,000, which is running really, spending some money on AO grounds, you know. That's what happened when we first started the Friends of AO. We actually cleaned up the golf course. Sorry, major golf course. All volunteers, we had about 30 members, we all give up our time, we cleaned it up, cut the grass, cleaned the putting surfaces up, and one guy volunteered his service and paid £340 on one day, which was brilliant. But you get this now. On phase B, £1,240,000. Then on page 32, again, this information is all totally wrong. Phase A, £1,731,949,000 on phase B. There's money missing here on the documentation. On phase A, £719,000. On phase B, £291,000. What's going on? Leader, I brought this up 8 weeks ago, where we invested 43 and we invested 63. The documentation, what we're receiving, is incorrect. Inadequate, I should say. Anyway, thanks very much.
Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Cabinet for the updates on the budgets and thanks for delivering vital services for facing huge cuts to budgets from this government. I'm equally dismayed at the attack from the government on our schools, particularly on the proposed national funding formula, which Councillor Platt highlighted. It will take £4.1 million away from the school's budget. Now, I've done some research and picked just 2 schools at random on how much they will lose from their budget. St Peter's, Orrell, will lose £459,000 up to 2020. This includes real term cuts and the proposed national funding formula. To put this into perspective, this equates to a loss of £493 per pupil, or is the equivalent to 12 teachers. Or Longton C of A, which will lose £319,000, which equates to a loss of £565 per pupil, or is the equivalent of 7 teachers. These figures are from government sources and highlight the attack that this government is making towards education, our children and young people. We're updated constantly on the success of our borough schools, and we highlight this locally, as I do with my ward, Tilsley. I'm also pleased that the Cabinet member has pledged to support our schools and hope that everyone in these chambers gets behind their local schools in order to tell this government to fund our children's education fairly. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Skate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this budget. First of all, we don't normally mention officers in this debate, but as ever, Paul McKenna and Tony Clark have put an enormous amount of work into preparing this budget, as have many officers from across the authority who have delivered much of the vision behind this budget and then into the consultation on it. This is the sixth budget since I've been a member of this council, and like the other five, continues to see cut services. To my knowledge, nobody who's ever sat in this chamber or been an officer of this council can in any way be held responsible for the failure of the global financial system in 2008. Lehman Brothers didn't collapse because this Labour Council was delivering world-class public services. But against this backdrop, this is the sixth budget where we've emphasised fairness. We've minimised the tax burden on our residents whilst redesigning our services to ensure as much as possible we continue to deliver first-class services. And Mr Mayor, it's known that I have friends from across the political spectrum who I often debate these matters with, and it's no secret that I'm not the number one fan of the current leadership of my party, but it's budgets like these that really emphasise for me why I'm a member of the Labour Party and proud to be a Labour councillor. The difference between us in this Labour group and this Tory government isn't our issue of repeating David Cameron's famous phrase, we're all in it together. The difference between us and Tories is we actually believe it. And yet, in the 6th year of the Tory government, we are also in the 6th year of our community of Wigan paying disproportionately for the bill and the failure of the global financial crisis in 2008. It's been pointed out that by 2020, the government will stop cutting our budget. They will have to because they can't reduce alcohol down to below zero. However, I wouldn't be so optimistic, as we're all aware. The baby boomer generation are moving into their 8th decade. It's an issue we've known about the demographic time over the generations. Pressures on adult social care are going to intensify. This is a complex problem and requires complex solutions, but we have a Tory government that is perhaps the least competent bunch since that led by Neville Chamberlain. The Tories know that the adult social care system needs money. Look at the Surrey bailout. But the Tories have no intention of finding a universal fix for the whole country. They brought in the 2014 Care Act and included in their manifesto. It wasn't a whole solution, it was a solution to areas of the country where people have money, but even that thing kicked into the long grass. And we saw that within weeks of the new government being elected. So, Mr Mayor, I have zero confidence that any solution will be found to the funding of adult social care within the next decade, and even less confident that whatever solution is found will be for areas like Wigan, where a large proportion of people are requiring services that are funded by the local authority. We therefore need to think carefully about our core priorities as a council. The Start Well, Live Well age model has to be at the foundation of everything we do as an authority. We heard during the speeches from members of the Cabinet, we heard Councillor Platt talk about the Start Well model and talking about the importance of pediatric health, which is something which she's put a lot of work into, which underlines that the health underlying of how we deliver public services, how we recognise people as individuals, as people, and ditto, when we heard Councillor Cunliffe talk about the different way in which we're delivering adult services is now focused on having conversations with people, not doing things to people. I was listening to our director of adult services the other day talking about how we now have conversations not about whether or not somebody people don't longer want a handrail putting on the side of their house, they now want a conversation with us. And the starting point of these conversations is always what did you used to enjoy. And ditto across the board with Councillor Reid's portfolio, we see SIF is underpinning that start well, live well, aim well model in terms of delivery services, delivering soft end out in the community. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for letting me speak on this, and I absolutely support this budget.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, just want to refer to a couple of things. First of all, welcome new leader of the Independents. I didn't know she was leader until today, but congratulations on that appointment. Might be a poison chalice. But you did refer to... I don't think it's an insult. I hope it wasn't meant as an insult, I'm sorry if it was taken that way. But she did mention to our decision to be a pilot for universal credit. And I think it's important that people understand that, because we were all very clear about it, because the areas that we were looking at for the pilots were leafy boroughs where poverty is very, very low. And to be honest, if that was how we were going to trial taking away, changing housing benefits, then we were going to come out with an outcome that was totally illogical and would not benefit the people of Wigan and other poor areas of the country. And that's why we chose to be a pilot. And by being a pilot, we were able to influence the officials. So I'm not talking about the politicians now. We could influence the politicians so that the system became, within the rules, fairer than it was one could be, and more practical. And so, for instance, one of the things that was introduced because of Wigan was this thing called an APA, which is what actually sort of happens now. So at the moment, for a lot of people, housing benefits paid straight over to the council. Now you're going to have to be 6 weeks in arrears. And then they put on one of these APAs, which means that after that, the money comes straight to the council until the arrears have been paid off. So that wouldn't have existed if Wigan Council hadn't pointed out the folly of just allowing these arrears to get bigger and bigger. Yes, we have got more arrears because we were a pilot for universal credit, but every other council in the land is going to get these arrears as it goes on to this universal credit system. And in particular, of course, I'm talking about housing benefit going directly to the tenant rather than coming to us, then the tenant has to pay for it. But of course, before they pay, they've got about 6 to 8 weeks in arrears. And so they've got 6 and 8 weeks when they have to manage the money. This is fine for some of us, but for others, it's very hard to manage when you're living very much hand to mouth. We've got food banks in this borough that didn't used to exist. And those are because of these people who can't easily manage the budgets because they're so tight in the beginning. Now, at least we were able to introduce that into the debate. So it should be an apology, it should be pride that we were allowed to get involved in influencing that. A really bad decision. And me as a long-serving councillor, I saw when we did this before, because we did it in the 80s, and our arrears went through the roof. But we have to do it again, and we go through this exercise, but it is frustrating, and I don't want you to think it was a downside. It was not a downside, it was delivered for our people, so that the system, within these new rules, is at least gives our people a fighting chance. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Second thing I just wanted to mention, because I couldn't resist when I heard Mike tell us about how everything's wonderful, we're doing great with these small businesses, for instance, and I thought, isn't that wonderful? Except that we've got a load of small businesses around our borough called schools. 152 of them. And guess what? They're all taking a bit of kids, aren't they? But what I love about it is it's called fairer funding. Fairer funding for schools. And
But now, actually, when I hear it on the telly, it sounds perfectly logical when I hear a Conservative politician explain it. Well, that means everyone will get the same for the school. Sorry. Everyone, but if everyone had the same problems, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the truth is that...
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Just from notice out.
All right, I'll just finish off by saying...
Well, finish, Ray. Sorry about that, Ray.
All right.
Before I saw you this floor, Councillor Halliwell, the second, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. No, Mr. Moore, I was speaking before you, so Mr. Brumley can go first.
Just very briefly to deal with a few points that came up after Councillor Winston we spoke. I too broadly welcome the budget, and I think it's very interesting. Obviously, during the first few years, when we were discussing budgets under Conservative government, I was pretty much the only Conservative councillor on the council, and it was a litany of people jumping up and down and blaming government. I'd like to say, certainly last year and this year, the change in tone has been very much welcomed. That we have actually stopped just going, as Peter brought up at the beginning, just blaming the government. We've actually started talking about the constructive things we do. And I think it's led to a much more reasoned and sensible sort of debate. And I do hope that will continue. As I say, there's much about this budget, as Councillor Winston said. There were a couple of points that were brought up, and I'd like to address those. With regard to investment in communities, it was something Michael intended to mention, but at the time, we do absolutely support that, but we do want to see robust governance and taxpayers' money protected. There have been a couple of incidents over the past couple of years whereby some of the CICs have perhaps not operated as robustly in terms of finance as we wish, and taxpayers' money has sometimes gone astray. With regards to Councillor Marshall, who happened to mention just by sheer chance at random schools in London and Norwell, which cover 4/5 of the Conservative group. Well, it's very interesting that she didn't mention Standish. Well, could that be because if she went up to Standish and said, oh, the wicked government, people in Standish would respond by saying, well then, why are you closing Shevington, which is a school that is very much impact on Standish. So I think when you're talking about that, you've got to take your own responsibility for things we all do as well. We will see what happens in terms of funding schools. We will look at what we've done to mitigate that. With regards to figures that came up in terms of council tax, I think it was Councillor City made this point. Well, I am glad that we limited council tax rises over the past few years, but I would point out that, and Michael alluded to this earlier on, council tax nearly doubled in Wigan during the 13 years of the Labour government. I'm glad that in times of when we haven't had so much money, that we haven't just gone to the taxpayer and said, oh, we'll put it all on your back, that we've actually looked for efficiencies in the system. And I've made the point before, and I'll make it again. If only we made some of these efficiencies years ago, we would be in a much better position now. And with that, Mr. Mayor, we'll sit down and we'll leave it to Councillor Halliwell. No doubt I'm going to slide in a few slide-ins since there's no more opposition members allowed to speak. So I'll let him get on with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councillor Halliwell.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. My colleagues and I have clearly demonstrated why we're advocating this budget to our residents. It doesn't just offer value for money and innovation to make the best use of money made available to us, but it complements our overall strategy of growth and reform. And it also balances the books somewhat. It's something George Osborne consistently failed to do over the last 5 or 6 years in the And it is a fact that this government have continued to take money from the people of Wigan, whilst at the same time providing sweetheart deals for leafy suburbs. I think Surrey was one of them. Another well-able Tory authority struggling to balance their budgets. And I thought Bob would bring up his normal 1 billion turnover. So the statements of accounts show, Bob, that this council has turned over about 760 million. However, 535 million of that is simply passported into different services across the borough to service their residents, and one of them being schools, although they took a bit of a whack, haven't they, recently? So this leaves us with a net budget of approximately about 235 million, and it is from this net budget that we have left and have felt the most impact. So you keep mentioning it, Bob, but for God's sake, get it right next time. So we have seen a staggering cut of approximately 40% from this, and it is within this figure that we're having to find some of the biggest savings. It's really difficult. The leader highlighted that we've already cut 115 million from 2011 to 2016. And this is a big lump left, it's 43 million to find from an ever-decreasing budget. And to be honest, we are entering into a new period of fiscal reality because there is simply not much wriggle room left for one-off easy cuts that people keep throwing into the arena. They don't really exist because they're not sustainable in the long term. They simply don't present themselves that easily anymore. You have to think about them hard and work them out. So these easy pickings have been used up. That's why we've had to look further. But what my colleagues have mentioned tonight, such as recycling opportunities to reduce landfill charges, investing in energy efficiency, modernising our day services like Keith's eloquently put, reforming children's services and redesigning early years, investing in communities, Chris, the different people that are actually helping us to deliver some of our integration strategy with the Community Investment Fund. We have rationalised our back office and we have invested in digital projects to reduce demand and at the same time try to increase customer access. So these changes we have done to date have improved our customer offer to our residents, whilst at the same time saving money and keeping our council tax, and I hope I've got this right, second lowest in Greater Manchester of the tax base, but the lowest council tax rise. However, this government is committing to its, and I will call it cuts, and faster ones, to councils like ours means we still have some very, very difficult choices. But we recognise, and it's been said on numerous occasions tonight, that we need our community's cooperation to achieve this. That's why we have the deal. That's why we have them in-depth conversations. That's why Chris and the leader has been going regularly I think they've been to every single area to have a conversation, a real conversation with people about what we can and cannot do. And we have problems with deal principles because that's what they are, but we don't want to hide things from them. Now, earlier this evening, the Deputy Leader made a comment about how important we recognise apprenticeships are to our future at this council. And I can announce tonight that in recognition of that and how important they are, and to in some ways reflect the cost of living and the amount of money they actually get, certainly when they begin our apprenticeships, we are going to actually increase the rate of the apprenticeship rate for our new apprentices and our registered apprentices. We'll be formulating some profiles around that, but we will be lifting the apprenticeship rates for all of us into our council. Now, it would be remiss of me if I didn't point out, by the way, well, in 2013, Theresa May's policy advisor actually wrote a document advocating reducing the minimum wage for northern towns and countries and reducing employment rates. Now, I like to think that our strategy is the right one, and they're simply out of touch with reality. That's my opinion. Councillor Grundy touched on about groups not being funded. Was that right? Only a couple of groups being funded. Have I got that right?
No.
Was it?
No.
A couple of 282 groups that have been funded in that respect. Just to put you right on that, Councillor Rundle. Somebody mentioned believing her campaign. Sorry?
Just to be very clear, point of personal explanation, I didn't say anything like that. What I said was, with reference to the funding of groups and benefits to communities, I said that we support it, but we would like to see ensured robust governance and taxpayer money protected, because there have been small number of groups where the money has perhaps not been as robustly governed as it should be. But I just wish to make clear, you perhaps misunderstood what I was saying. Thank you very much, Mr. Nick.
What a career-ending mistake that was.
Well, if they'd allowed me to finish, I was just going to say.
Go on!
Out of the 282, there's just them two. So we've already recognised that and started to put that right. So next time you might want to think before you jump up. Jumped up too soon.
Take it on the chin.
So, now, I just wanted to touch on the Believe campaign, because we think they're important. I've actually seen some rises in hate crime and the types of incidents taking place across the borough. So I believe every single penny of the Believe in Her and the Believe I'm You campaign was absolutely necessary to put a stop to it. Now, Mr. Moore, as many of you know, I've been with the crisis desk, and it would be remiss of me not to take my opportunity to speak on mine, so I hope you forgive me, Peter, if I get a little bitty. Now, I think it's important, Mr. Moore, how we treat those less fortunate than ourselves. And I think it's an important measure of any government. Our council come to that, and equally of any council. However, I believe that this government has adopted a right-wing dogma in respect of what they're doing to some of our most vulnerable. Some of them, a very small minority of residents, find themselves on benefits. And I just find it a pity that they don't chase this government, don't chase the companies and the individuals engaged in tax avoidance and evasion the same thing they do to this small number of people, which would prove to be much more lucrative or thing to do later if you want to put some money back into the economy. You actually feel you're going to, you actually believe you're going to put it right by picking on a few people. Even the United Nations, this is not my comment, even the United Nations, and they've done it twice, I'm going to give you one, on economic, social and cultural rights found them repugnant, and I quote, they confirm that the UK's austerity policy since 2010 breached the UK's international human rights obligations. They go even further by saying they have a disproportionate adverse impact on the most marginalised and disadvantaged citizens, including women, children, persons with disabilities, low-income families, and those with 2 or more children. The committee even recommended that the UK reverse the cuts in social security benefits and review the use of sanctions, and should take steps to reduce the use of zero-hours contracts, which disproportionately affect women, by the way. Now, approximately 12% of our residents are affected in some way, shape or form. 1,000, for example, 1,066 people affected by benefit sanctions. Many of them affected by serious mental health issues. Do you really think beating them over the head, even earning them what they've been suffered to, earning what they've been subjected to, would actually make them do something different? All you do is put them down. So I'm going to actually be positive here. So to mitigate the worst effects of this government's policy, we have put in place comprehensive crisis support through our local welfare provision to help them back into work, such as the Work Well and our Live Well initiative, helping people back on their feet so they can look for employment. What we don't do is constantly dehumanise them and continue to strip away what's left of their dignity. We build them up, we do not break them down. But the most radical change to the public sector in this borough, coming very shortly, early intervention and prevention, will be the place-based working which is taking place in Blackbridge. And it is that what will take demand, reduce demand on public services to meet the cuts this government has imposed on health and social care in this public sector. Mr Mayor, I have great pleasure in seconding this motion and I move the budget proposals for the next municipal year.
Thank you, Councillor Halloran. Leader of Planning.
Thank you, Councillor Halliwell. Obviously, been taking his raw meat sandwiches before the meeting. I'd like to thank members for the contributions tonight. I know they've been pretty positive commenting on the budget. I know Councillor Winston is a bit of a gambling man, and I'm not really, but I'm willing to take the punt with you, Michael, on the winning of the Grocery Mansion elected mayor post. I'll probably even give you on to get Sean as well, so we'll do that. I think we recognise that we have changed in tone in two ways. First of all, in a sense, you do get fed up of beating against a brick wall. But also, I think we recognised early doors that if we were going to cope with the extent of the reduction in money, the 42% we were going to lose, we couldn't just do it slicing bits off the council. We had to work in a very different way. We developed a Wigan deal, and then we developed the deal for the future. So we are different. And yet we don't put the council tax up because, in a sense, again, the financial plan has changed, and also the government changed the rules around council tax benefits. So actually, it's more, impacts more on the poor in our communities because the benefit is less. So again, I think we act responsibly, knowing that is the case. So we'll do that. So we will try. We will. Very happy to be measured against performance of the budget. Hopefully we will get there. It will not be perfect. I'm sure we'll change one way or another. But basically we will achieve this level of budget. And we don't throw balances into the budget. We don't do that because Councillor Braley should know if he was using his own savings to properly spend it, he can do it 1 year, he can do it the next year, but eventually even Councillor Braley would run out of savings. And then where would he be if we had to meet a crisis situation? So we don't use balances to prop up the budget. We take the hard decisions. We change the way we work. And we do. It's not just, as Councillor Grundy implied, about efficiencies. It's actually about transformation. It's actually about finding ways of preventing people getting into more serious problems, which costs us all more money to solve. And I hope that this is a non-partisan thing, really. I hope the government would actually welcome it more than they do. But when they cut back on public health spending, which is another way of preventing people becoming ill, then one questions if they really understand that approach. I was surprised at some of the comments that Councillor Fair has made. She's against recycling. How can we be against recycling? You did say we shouldn't do the recycling. You did. So you can't pretend you didn't say it. We all heard you. So if you don't want to recycle, what do? Put more in landfill, create more problems for the planet, and actually cost the council more money, just simply with money effectively down the drain that we don't do. So it's important, I think, to recycle. I think young people in the borough recognise that, and they'll be the real advocates for change. She raised a point, we've seen valid enough about the way that housing actually increases provision for debt. I think a lot of that is actually prudential accounting within the housing service. We don't reach that level at the moment, and I'm sure we won't reach it in the future, but we can't avoid again, we need to prudentially we had an interesting, as usual, contribution from Councillor Rayleigh, generally about Hay Hall. I think Councillor Blue was chased up at Hay Hall. Without enough, but anyway, that's the point. So, Hay Hall is a successful country park. We've changed the relationship with the hall. We'll save money on that. we're investing any money we got from that back into the park to improve public facilities. So, Mr. Mayor, I think within the constraints we've got, I will recommend this budget to members to approve and to go forward with pride that we as a council have achieved a lot more than many other councils.
I've got a point of personal clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't say, Councillor Smith, that I was against recycling. I said it's an important point for recycling, the benefits to earth and planet of recycling, but at the cost effectiveness of the borough. I didn't say I was against it, I said we needed to do a cost effectiveness to the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I will now move to the vote and remind members to please use the electronic voting system as a record this item. Has everyone voted?
Go back to the other way of the
I think that motion is carried. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to item 7. Appointment of the local returning officer for the combined authority mayoral elections. In accordance with Schedule 2, the combined authority mayoral elections are the 2017. So, can you hear that? All right. The council has requested to approve the appointment of the chief executive as a local returning officer for the combined authority mayoral election on May 4, 2017. Is this moved on in favour? Show of hands.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Good, moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favour? Show of hands, then, please. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Right, thank you. Just before we do...
Can someone send me clear instructions as to what the returning officer's role is in any elections? Because I'm very confused.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can you send me documentation, please?
If you approach Brendan, he'll send it to us, yes. Just before we do finish, thank you for all the people who spotted the deliberate mistake right at the beginning. Just sit down or don't sit down. Thank you. That concludes the business for tonight. Have a safe journey home. Thank you, everyone.